So now I have different leverages saying, okay, not only you need to do right thing, but it's beneficial for your product. And let me show you a framework, how, having this growth mindset within the team requires cross-functional collaboration, meaning we have different perspectives from engineering, from data side, from marketing to inform, the challenges that the most pressing for our product.
All right, everyone. Today, I'm so fortunate to welcome Natalie Mandriko to the podcast. Natalie is a product manager with experience in both the B2B and B2C space. Her emphasis is in using data and guiding collaboration across multiple departments to deliver valuable and usable experiences for her businesses. Furthermore, Natalie's background runs the gamut from software development to QA, positioning her extremely well to have truly excellent insight into what guides effective cross-functional collaboration. Currently, Natalie works in the as a growth product manager for WeatherBug, managing partnerships and leading growth in analytics. Alongside that, Natalie is a community leader in the Washington, D.C. area with two major groups, UXDC and the Miro DC user group. Hey, Natalie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. It's wonderful to be here.
All right, so cross-functional collaboration and product growth. Ready to get into it?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so just to start, what's your personal background with product growth?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to share the whole context. So I started my career as a software engineer on the back end. So I had this understanding of how important it is to understand the data and have a structured data behind the scene. And then I moved to project management and then to product management. And now I feel like I can combine now the whole history of my exploration with deep appreciation for data, and now I can use data to inform the growth strategies for the product. So it's excellent place, and I feel at home finally to see how it can all overlap.
That's awesome. So as we think about cross-functional collaboration, where does that come into play? And why is cross-functional collaboration a prerequisite for product growth?
Yeah. Well, before I felt like it's my privilege to understand each role in the software development cycle because I really love people and I love products and the way I build products is I engage people to build products. So for me, it was natural state, but for me, it was really hard to convince people just to do right thing, have cross-functional collaboration and build good products. So now I have different leverages saying, okay, not only you need to do right thing, but it's beneficial for your product. And let me show you a framework, how, having this growth mindset within the team requires cross-functional collaboration, meaning we have different perspectives from engineering, from data side, from marketing to inform, the challenges that the most pressing for our product. And then together, we ideating solutions, going back to design, thinking. Now we have multiple solutions from different perspectives, and team now feel engaged and invested in outcome, which is the outcome of having good product for good people.
Yeah, no, that's really good. In a lot of ways, really investing in your people creates those outcomes that you're looking for from a product perspective.
Yeah, as I said, I really feel at home, so this is my ground.
I love it. So for everyone here, let's go ahead and shift gears a little bit to set some foundations of what is cross-functional collaboration. So just to start, like overall, simple levels, like what makes up cross-functional collaboration?
Yeah, well, in my perspective, to unlock this cross-functional collaboration, not only I need to have people in the room or in Zoom call, I need to provide why so personal, so relevant to each role, so they feel like why they're spending the time with me, why growth is important for this role, for his role, and how his contribution is actually will influence the product future.
That's really good. Like starting at that why is something that can be so easily overlooked, especially if you're pulling in developers. Sometimes organizations may be like, well, why do they need to know the why? And that's like the foundation of starting a ground for cross-functional collaboration. Beyond developers, like what other roles are typically going to be involved in a cross-functional team?
Yeah, well, it depends. Now, my 10 years of experience as a consultant speaks through it, even off the script. So I wanted to say it depends. And I used to have a sticker, the actual sticker from NNG Group with, word, it depends. And I put it in the laptop.
Oh,
And every time I had conversation with my new clients or existing clients, I just put my laptop first so they can see the immediate answer would be, it depends. So this is long story to tell that cross-functional collaboration depends on the projects and products you're executing or initiatives. So in my context now, when speaking about the growth initiatives and doing the growth initiatives within the company, established companies, I experimenting with the framework of, okay, I have experiment owner, which is like a role for a person to join this maybe sprint, or if you coming from Scrum, it's more of a sprint growth sprint. And that experiment owner might be in real life a marketing lead, is as in my fresh experiment. And that person is responsible to understand why we want to do this growth experiment. He needs to or she needs to execute the experiment, see results of it, and internalize the results. Saying, okay, now I understand how I need to do my work in the future, ensuring that that will grow the product. So this is the number one role is experiment owner. Now, the second role, as I see it, it's working now, is the data analyst. Obviously, you need to have data to inform your experiments and see how it's working. So in my setup, it's not, permanent role either. So I may have a product manager that, wants to do more data and who wants to understand analytics system that we're using. So I will invite him to be a data analyst for this specific sprint, or what we call it initiative for short duration. And the last third role is growth advisors. People who they need to understand why we're doing this work, but they don't need to be involved in the actual work. Think about the head of product. She needs to understand why this growth experiment is important for the overall strategy of a product or roadmap. And think about engineers. So sometimes engineers not the active like experiment owner, but more of an advisor. Like I now he understands technology obviously, and he can advise what we can do and cannot do with the current implementation in terms of experimentation. So this is like a base for my last experiment when we done the push notification optimization. I kind of realized, okay, I think I have like a three major roles, and depending on needs of the projects, those roles might be fulfilled from different departments. And this way you unlock cross-functional collaboration, just, removing people from the siloed departments into one group and assigning temporary roles so they can see the common purpose.
interesting. Yeah. So it's really about like figuring out what is the challenge we're trying to solve, and then who is the team makeup of that, and then
Mm-hmm.
kind of almost like there's like this balance of I understand you're an engineer or you're a head of product, but kind of set those titles to the side and benefit
Mm-hmm.
of cross-functional collaboration.
That's right.
So, what is the most important part of cross-functional collaboration?
Well, I have, interestingly, I have two major ones. First is empathy. Coming from different backgrounds and different responsibilities, we don't have enough visibility from other people's other roles' life. And when you're creating these teams first time, obviously you will see some frictions in terms of understanding of reality. And to make it a successful transition from not understanding to the shared understanding, you need to have empathy within the team's members. Um, and the second one, when you have empathy, well, even if you don't have empathy, you need to have a strong sense of why you need to struggle through it to arrive to a destination with this team. So basically, going back to why, and as you go through achieving that why, you need to have empathy.
Yeah, empathy is so important. One of the tactics that we've gotten in the habit of doing on our product teams at Crema is at the start of some meetings doing what we call a feelings wheel exercise. You can Google feelings wheel, and it's basically we ask everyone on like a Miro board to just drop their like a dot of like, hey, this is how I'm feeling today. Because you're right, like people have so much more than what they bring to the meeting. They might have something outside of work that they're struggling with, and knowing that context really allows everybody to come in as equals to work effectively on cross-functional collaboration.
I love it, and I so feel insecure to do it at my own teams, but I have to do it.
It does take a push. Even when we've started, we work with a lot of clients, and oftentimes it is uncomfortable to be like, wait, I have to talk about my feelings. But once you do it a couple times, what we found is that it really does. It doesn't only just allow you to focus on more effective discussions at the time, but it also creates better, long-lasting relationships. Especially right now, everyone's meeting through Zoom all the time, and there's always humans on the other side of the screen. So, speaking of maybe navigating some of that challenge with humans, what are some challenges on your mind that organizations need to look out for when they're creating and guiding cross-functional teams?
Yeah, I think we nailed it in the last, conversation. So one of them, the biggest one, is lack of empathy. It's not because people are evil. It's just because the environment that we set up in organization, it kind of
Mm.
not unlocking this innate power of being, having empathy for other human and not human beings. So I guess the structural challenges departments. We need to have departments, right? We need to have a sense of control. We need to have sense of belonging to a specific group, right? Otherwise, you're not gonna see like what is my community? If I have organization over 200, there is no sense of community until I have, my immediate team members that I can associate with and share deeper challenges in my work, right? So it's natural that we want to have the structure so people feel safe within the structure. It's natural to have processes to, making sure that you're not overwhelmed with work, but you know how to do your work, and processes will guide you through it. But the drawback of it is when we kind of, feel so comfortable with departments, feel so comfortable with the processes, it might be so overwhelming to know that reality is less structured and is much more messy. And when you start doing this cross-functional, let's say, discovery of a product as a new product, and if you're talking about the consulting side, right, it's very uncomfortable. Or you do first initiatives within the company, or you do growth, and it's very uncomfortable too. For those people who are accustomed to be safe within departments, within current processes, the major barrier would be, okay, now I need to be feel less safe, less comfortable, less open to new ideas, and less knowledgeable because of cross-functional knowledge is different knowledge. So this is more of a psychological issue that we're talking about. And I don't have like a definite answer how we should resolve that ultimately. But I do know in my own practice, if I feel that person is not comfortable, do uncomfortable work, it means I need to spend more time listen to that person if I feel that he will provide value and my investment in listening will be, well worth my time. So I'll listen a lot to see overlap. How can I show him the benefit being uncomfortable so then he can decide by himself to be included and try it.
Yeah, well said. The thing about being uncomfortable in for any role in product, I think is probably the biggest challenge. And it roots here in that like strive towards effective cross functional teams. But like that being able to embrace feeling uncomfortable is it's the biggest challenge for the success of any product role. Whether you're a product manager or someone else working in product, so much of what we do is rooted in ambiguity. And if you embrace that discomfort, great things can come from it. But it is so hard to do it, and it is much more hard than I would argue much more hard than building any like even classic product skills like being able to understand and oversee process and more.
That's right. Yeah. And well said as well, yeah. And definitely value would be grow as a person, grow understanding of the ultimate reality. So this is why kind of I feel for product management, it's so important to understand if you step into it, it will be a tremendous personal opportunity for you to grow yourself.
Yes, definitely. So speaking of growth, let's go and shift gears a little bit as we look towards alignment for product growth. And so, Natalie, how do you align cross-functional teams towards product growth? Once you've got the cross-functional teams, now how are they aligned towards that product growth?
Yeah, now I'm gonna share uncomfortable reality of things. You know, we have this idea of HIPPO, the highest paid person opinion in the room. And usually, what happens if we have that person in the room, we kind of look up and see whether he has a definite answer or definite opinion that we need to just follow. It's going to be easy path for us, even though we might complain, okay, like there is no product strategy, we just follow his or her direction. But at the same time, we kind of rob ourselves off from our own responsibility and accountability. So the uncomfortable truth is, I still need to work with Hippo, a highly paid person in the room, and his directs first. So it's still going to be a top to bottom approach in terms of we need to determine product strategy. I need you to think through how do you measure the ultimate value you provide to your users. You need to agree between yourself what would be the most important metric for you, and I will help you along the way if I feel that you're lacking, and naturally you will lack, deeper understanding of growth as a discipline. So I will provide some templates. I will provide some, way of thinking through it. But this is your responsibility to determine the product strategy. This is your responsibility to determine the number one metric that the whole teams will follow. And I'll take my own responsibility to decompose one North Star metric into levers, and I will work with levers with the teams to move the levers.
Can you talk a little bit about the North Star metric? Like, what is the North Star metric?
Yeah. So this concept of the metric, it should be a simple one, but that metric should show how your product delivers value to your customers. And to make it more practical, as an example, one of the famous example is Airbnb has book uh, uh, nights booked. So this is the ultimate value, right? The reason you're using the product is to book the night as a guest, or the reason you're using this as a host is to offer your property so then you can get the booked nights and get the money out of it, right? This transaction. So the ultimate goal for both sides of the market is nights booked, right? Now the question is in terms of frequency for guests. Most probably you'll doing this maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. So for you, the natural frequency would be number of nights booked per year. And for host, natural frequency would be, yeah, I actually want to book like I need to have a book like maybe every month or even better every week. But at least let's start with monthly, right? So monthly number of nights booked. So I'm going to be successful. You as a platform will be successful if I have more nights booked. So this is the North Star metric for Airbnb. So it comes back to your value prop of a product and how do you measure the delivery of this value to your customers.
So that's awesome. And I'm curious, like once you've identified that metric, how can you use that metric to guide the alignment of your cross-functional product team?
Yeah, like as I mentioned before, once you have this North Star, the biggest one, this is not enough. Now you want to decompose to make it relevant to deeper levels in your organization. So, meaning if I have this metric, now I need to think, okay, what are the biggest phases? How I can move this metric up? And basically, we have acquisition. You want to acquire more, and maybe it will move this metric up. Now we have retention. How do you retain users? How do you engage users more so they can you can it can lead to value delivered? And then, well, the more of a outside of things is monetization. If you think about the Airbnb example, well, it's not, right? So when you book the night, it actually gives you money. So it's still a part of a picture. So you have this like three major phases: acquisition, retention, and monetization. And then this is not enough. You need to go deeper. And when you go deeper, let's say I talk about engagement. And in my specific product is a B2C mobile app. One way to engage is through push notification. So one of the small leverages would be, okay, how can I optimize my push notifications so it moves up engagement, but at the same time, I want to make sure that push notifications are relevant. So I'm not introducing attrition to my users. So they're not, they consume push notification and they're willing to keep the app, and they don't want to uninstall the app because the push notification wasn't relevant for them, right? So this is like the lowest level, going from the North Star metric to phases, and then determine the focus, what phase you want to work on, and then going deeper. Okay, what are the leverage within that specific phase, and then you create initiative around optimization for that specific lever and see if your experiments would work to move that small lever to see how is that then going to impact the highest metric.
That's really really fascinating, and it really that gives a great overview of how the North Star metric, if we kind of like map that to our like product strategies and how we figure those out, where you have like the vision and then it kind of breaks down into the strategies and feature sets. What you basically did was you just mapped out like the North Star metric is essentially the vision metric, and then that breaks down into individual strategies like the push notification strategy in order to increase that.
Absolutely. So, and it's a good, a bridge toward the product strategy, because you start with your product strategy, and then that should inform your North Star metric. And then you have, smaller decomposed ways to move that metric so you can realize your strategy.
So you're measuring these metrics in service, whether it's like small pieces or large pieces, like the North Star metric, in service
Mhm.
ultimately of that vision. Um, do these measurements inform making any modifications to how your team operates or what those primary target metrics are? Do you change the North Star metric? Do you change the push notification metric? Things like that.
Yeah, I actually been invested in this just, past 6 months, so I don't have like a ton of examples. But so far, yes, it did impact the way how we think about prioritization in terms of what we need to do now. So it's less, of guessing like what we need to do now, less of a pulling from, immense list of to-dos, but more asking, okay, why is this important? How is that relevant to an metric that we are now chosen to follow? And how should we measure the impact we're making, if any? And over time, what I want to see, like every project, like a small projects within the product that we execute, we want to be very articulate in terms of how we define this more of a hypothesis. I know not every project is like a hypothesis driven. It's like you want to just upgrade your system on the back end. There is no hypothesis, you just need to do it, right? But sometimes when you do the feature set, now I better have conversation why you think it's important. How would you measure that? How can you scale the effort to see if it's really impactful for your users?
Awesome. That's really good. And I'm kind of curious. You're providing a lot of guidance and oversight. So maybe we can talk a little bit about how you, as a product manager, like what your role specifically is in this focus for cross-functional teams and making it support product growth. So we've talked about cross-functional collaboration. We've talked about the North Star metric that generates that alignment. What is the product manager's role in this at the end of the day?
Yeah, with this context in terms of growth, it's more of a facilitation. So I need you to step back, provide empathy and listen. Well, I need to learn stuff, right? But at the same time, as my friend Ethan Garr from Breakout Growth mentioned in our first conversations, like when you're starting doing growth, the number one thing is to help. everyone in the organization to learn their role in growth. So
Hmm.
that translates into, okay, even though I'm learning this awesome frameworks, I building my own understanding how it's all work as a system, but this is not the number one job. My number one job is to empower my team to do growth.
Hmm.
So I need to, consume all the knowledge, simplify it, and share enough context, enough why for a specific team to do the growth. So ultimately, it seems like my role now in terms of being a growth product manager is to consume information, distill the essential one, make it relevant for organization, and just share enough information to get the organization moving.
That's really powerful. I mean, it's like here's all the it's this awesome stuff we talked about growth and cross-functional collaboration. But at the end of the day, it's not a siloed role. It's a role from the position of us as product managers to ultimately guide, facilitate, and empower our team so that way we can pull out the greatness from everyone within our team that has all those unique vantage points in order to really align towards those North Star metrics to ensure successful and results-based product growth and more.
Yeah, I just getting goosebumps. That's right. So and that's why, like, we started this conversation that now I see it's all kind of unified in my universe. As I've been in the software engineering seat and not been empowered. I've been in, by accident QA because I didn't have QA and I wasn't empowered. I didn't understand why I'm doing this work. I've been a business analyst and I wasn't courageous enough to ask hard questions to my clients, why are we doing this work? I've been project manager, forced to execute projects that did not have any benefit except us getting money out of client accounts.
Hmm.
So that was really uncomfortable situation, and that led me, okay, I want to do better for the people that I now see in each seat. I want to be better for my clients and my customers. And the only way to do it is to empower everyone to provide strong why.
That's so good. I mean, because like that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Is if we don't cultivate that environment of empowerment for the team, then like nothing is going to happen, or it's just going to be like those examples that you had to work through in your career. And speaking of your career, you've mentioned that this has really been your focus for the last 6 months. So, can you talk a little bit about how are you personally guiding your teams with metrics right now?
You mean like the current progress I made? Okay, yeah, I think the biggest you know thing I've done is to show how quickly we can execute. So even though I have like a great frameworks, you don't have to follow all steps. You just see the immediate need and pain point. You see that everybody understands this is very painful. As an example, push campaigns that increase attrition, it's very painful. We want to fix it now because we want to continue engage our users, but make it safer and relevant for our users, right? So it's obvious we want to fix that. And then I started, releasing this small piece of nuggets of understanding how we should attack that and provide, tools and a little bit of framework and weekly discussions and execution throughout the week with results at the end of the week. So after 6 weeks of experimentation, first experimentation, my experiment owner told me, and she's the marketing lead, she said, okay, now I feel what messaging will resonate. Now I know how to think about measuring of my feeling, and I can predict now results of conversion. So
Hmm.
now when she's sending the messages, she can predict in terms of numbers, conversions, meaning how many people will react and open app after this message. And now she can go back to the numbers and say, okay, I was right. And that builds confidence in terms of now she's comfortable communicating with users, not only because she feels as a human, but she has support from data side. So this is the ultimate first and easy win that I achieved in my growth role.
That's incredible. That's awesome. So, Natalie, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask some personal lightning round questions, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, first, which of your personal habits has contributed most to your success?
Investing in myself. Like every time I invest in my own health and well-being, worth it.
What's your favorite tool that you use regularly?
Uh, you mean in terms of investment in myself?
In yourself, or your favorite app, or whatever you use in your day to day.
Well, a timer. Yeah, I actually use timer like every morning because I do meditation. I just put time minutes for to meditate.
That's awesome. And the last question is for somebody who is listening today at the start of their product management journey, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to them?
Yeah. So this question, I was thinking about my own journey, and seems like for me, what was working is working now is three steps. First, as I already mentioned, invest in myself to understand my needs, my inclinations, my habits, my strengths and weaknesses. And then after done this discovery, my second step is to think, okay, uh, what makes me tick? What is so, I have so urge, like now I have for growth, that I cannot do without it. So this is
Hmm,
my, what makes me tick. When I discovered that, the hardest thing is to stick with it. No matter what, I feel passion and I will follow it.
that's awesome. Natalie, thank you so much for joining the podcast and sharing your knowledge today. I have certainly learned a lot. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Michael.
For everyone who has been listening, you can find out more about Natalie's work on her website, natalie.mandriko.digital, or find her on LinkedIn. Again, thank you so much, Natalie, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Be sure to leave a review of our podcast if you can. Let us know what you like to see more of. Otherwise, please join and follow our community online at theproductmanager.com. Thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.